let me do an actual intro. Hi everyone, this is PBE Talk. I did this with the Foxdrop like a year and a half ago, something like that, and we're back again for a mid-season update, which is possibly the craziest mid-season update I've ever seen in terms of items.
Yeah, item-wise, definitely. Not so many crazy things as far as actual overall champion balance, but items,
Yeah,
yeah, most stuff there.
they really changed up everything. Some of the changes are kind of weird because above all, I think we mentioned this before. Abyssal and Banshees are just
Yep.
basically they just switch the items, like the point of the items. So
Yeah, I'm not. This is probably one of the things. There's two things that I'm really not a fan of here. One of them's the Guardian Angel change, and the second one is this one here with the Banshees change. I'm always going to get them confused, by the way. Which one's Abyssal, which one's Banshees? Because they both got swapped.
Abyssal is the rod. Well, now that they changed them, should I explain the new one or the old one?
Well,
Abyssal is the
the thing
purple
is,
one.
yeah, Abyssal is now like the tank item, right?
Yes, yes.
That has this, like I actually like that. Like Abyssal, I think is as an item by itself. That's cool.
Hmm?
Having the aura, like where your team does more magic damage to people who are near you. I like that. I think that's on a tank item as well. I actually quite like that because I think that's quite a. It's not just me tank, me unkillable
No,
kind of thing,
definitely.
you know?
I think it's a good idea. It's the same thing. I was very. This is a bit of a tangent, but I was very skeptical about redemption. But it does give you a little bit more agency in a way. And I think
Yeah.
Abyssal is the same way. It gives you tankiness. Like the change in itself on Abyssal, maybe not that bad. Because it gives. I mean, maybe it's going to be crazy with Sunfire Cape and everything, and all the magic damage tanks do in general. But as a principle, I'm not specifically against it.
Yeah.
But as you said, GA we'll get to GA because holy crap, that is a big mistake, a very big mistake. But so they made a post where they said that they wanted to basically they didn't want the goal value of items to be half armor, MR, and half health, which not entirely sure why they want to change that, but that's apparently the goal of the changes. So basically, they have lowered the HP on a bunch of tank items and increased the armor or MR. What's your take on that? What do you think they want to change that?
Is this what we just talked about, or are
Yeah,
you
before, yeah.
okay? Yeah. So you don't mind that it being split between health and armor, or health and magic resist. And I think in theory I mean, it's a balance, right? So it can't be like too wrong, but from my perspective, I like more emphasis on the resistances because then that's not the universal stat, right? So that means you have to have more, you have to think about it a bit more, what it is you want to buy. If you just go for the health, if you get a lot of health from an item, then you can say you rush like Spirit Visage because in top lane, right? Because you're up against like Rumble or something like
Right,
that.
right.
Then when you come out of lane, even if there aren't too many magic damage threats knocking about, you're still relatively tanky because you've got a crap ton of health
HP,
in
yeah.
item. And I would like to see it so that if you rush an MR tank item, which will be really hard honestly for the Rumble, like that's pretty impactful as far as like Rumbles and what he can do to you in the lane phase. If you're going to get that benefit, I would like to see more of a trade-off where you come out of lane phase and suddenly you're actually quite vulnerable still because you don't have anything that's itemized towards the people who do physical damage to you. Or if I'm playing a physical damage jungler and I want to gank the top laner or someone like that who's rushed, say the Spirit Visage, right? Say I'm playing Lee Sin. He's still really hard to gank because he's so tanky, even though he has no armor whatsoever, right? So he's not necessarily itemized against me at all. He
But he's
just still
still tanky,
becomes,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I like swapping him more to the resistances because then he's still going to be like fine against the Rumble, right? Which is what he was aiming to do anyway. But he's not so fine against the physical damage people. And to be honest, with tanks in general, I think it's a good idea to give more ways where you can like play against them because they're probably some of the hardest to play against in the game because they
Yeah.
just they're just so down tanky. It doesn't really matter. They're just so hard to do anything
And they
against.
still
So
have the damage, which is where
yeah,
the complaint have been for a long time. But actually, that makes a lot of sense with this less generic build, I suppose. And it feels like you have more choice. Like they're really, really focusing on more choice and more specific. They don't want one specific build path. They want it to change with each game. And I was really not expecting it to go as much as it did, like that way. But in Season 6 and Season 7, they have really made it so that, yeah, you can build, like, there's no definitive always build this item path, like it used to be in, like, Season 3 and Season 4.
Yeah.
There were maybe one or two items you changed, but, well, many champions right now, it varies quite a bit.
It does, yeah.
But do you think then with this being very specific resistance, so you buy items that either focus on armor or MR and don't have HP specifically, and they have more of that, do you think full AD comps are going to be really, really screwed over by this? Because I'm a little bit skeptical as a Zed player. You know, if we're full AD and they're amplifying all the armor, but they're compensating by reducing HP, but then if you can just go all the armor, it might be kind of bad. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the thing is like if you stack armor items now, you should have like significantly less actual health. Although having said that, it's like less than 100 per item, right? It's not actually like a massive deal, but so that would mean like, yeah, if you want to stack a certain thing, you are going to have a glaring weakness against like the AP. But if you're in a full AD comp, like you're saying, yeah, that's an interesting one, because you would imagine you would probably get pretty screwed from that. Especially, this might be a nice transition here as well.
Yeah.
That they are changing the armor pin items so that they don't give you
significant nerf to all Last Whispers, like every single Last Whisper, and Black Cleaver getting another percentage nerf. So Black Cleaver is going from 5% per shred to 4% per shred, which it's not going to make me stop buying the item. It's probably not going to make anyone stop buying the item, but it is a significant nerf.
It's something, yeah.
To some extent, but I guess their intent wasn't actually to nerf Cleaver or to nerf Last Whisper or anything like that. It's to compensate so you don't get more value from it because everyone has more armor. The problem is that at some point you get to this ridiculous amount of armor that I don't know if you're going to be able to get by with just the 35% bonus arm penetration on the Last Whispers, but I guess that's a little bit in-depth in the math to actually know already. But
yeah, that's the thing, like you don't know exactly like how it's going to affect things. It is worth noting that the Lord Dominic's actually has the increased damage from like the Giant Slayer portion, where you do more damage to people with more health. That's getting buffed.
Oh, it is, yeah, 5% from 15 to 20%. That's rather significant, actually, considering. Well, the thing is, we have been saying that it's going to be harder to get HP, but there are some, like, Guardian Angel got a significant, Warmog's armor got a significant buff, from what I can tell. And Sterak's Gage got a little bit changed as well. Yeah. So I think that it's not impossible to stack HP. It's just if you want this very tanky folk, I think Bruisers are still going to be able to stack HP quite well.
Yeah.
Depending on what you build, with Cleaver, with Titanic, with Sterak's. But it'll be hard to tell, honestly. But yeah, Warmog's, I don't know. Did they want to compensate for the fact that they lowered HP and everything else? Because they significantly increased the regeneration, and they reduced so that you can get the regeneration. Previously, you needed 3,000 HP to get it. Now you can get it 2,750, and now it's 5% HP per second.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because for me, like, the health change there, I don't think that changes much in the grand scope of things, because the other items themselves now are giving less health, right? So you'll pretty much probably unlock that Warmog's Heart at like the same time-ish.
Probably.
Right?
I mean, it was always the case that if you bought a single HP item on top of Warmog's, you'd get the unlock anyway. But I'm still thinking, like, if you're going for that HP heavy, like, if you're going for a really, really HP heavy build like Sterak's, Titanic, Black Cleaver, Warmog's, you're not really losing any HP on this change, because they're only taking away HP from strictly tank items that give you MR or armor. So at that point, the regeneration on Warmog's, do you think Do you think after like 5 years we'll actually see Warmogs again? Because I haven't seen it in half a decade at this point.
That's I don't know. The thing is, like, in the situations where you feel the benefit of Warmogs, it feels really strong. Like, you
Yeah.
don't see it anymore, but if you've ever just build it randomly in a game, right, and say you're playing like Mundo or something stupid like that, and you just like, whatever, I get Warmogs. The regen already, the 3%, that was crazy. Like, that was legitimately ridiculous.
Incredible. Like, especially, we might actually see some tactical things. Like, if you don't have a sustained support, like a Sona or, well, a Sterak or anything, if you have a Zyra, then you might actually pick up a Warmogs for like longer sieges, or like tactically building it against a poke comp. Because 5% HP per 5 sec, like one, that's a lot of 5% per second. That's a really, really good increase.
Yeah.
Like 20 seconds and you're...
My only concern there is, like, does 5% give you much more than the 3% already would? Yes, obviously it's 2% more, but do you know what I mean? Like, the benefit you would get, like you're saying, the scenarios where, you know, if you're in a siege, whatever, the 3% probably per second is like pretty good in itself, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's serviceable in that, just from that perspective. So, do you need it to bump it up to 5%? Does that change much as how the item actually works in that sense?
I actually think the increase, even though 3% and 5% doesn't sound like a huge difference on paper, when you look at it, it's either 15% of your maximum HP in 5 seconds or 25% of your maximum HP in 5 seconds.
Yep.
Like 20 seconds and you're full HP no matter what.
Yeah, I know the actual numbers are you know, different, and they definitely add up as well, considering it's like a tick, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just questioning whether or not, like you're saying, the difference between 15% and 25%. Yes, that's very significant in itself, but if you were itemizing against poke and something like that, we like would just getting that 15% that you would get currently, that's decent still, and that would be like something that you would consider buying against poke. Does getting the 25%, like, I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well. Like, I don't know whether that's the push to making it, oh, now this is good and
no,
now
I get
this
you,
is
I get
viable,
you.
And now, yeah, whether it's just
I
like
think mainly, I see where you're coming with that. I think mainly why we would see it, I don't think we would see it specifically for that reason, but because you don't get HP from other sources right now as much. So you might see it. I mean, it's very unlikely to see these meme builds with like Sterak, Cleaver, Titanic, Warmogs with no resistances at just HP, unless you play something crazy like a on-hit or like auto-attacking Zac or something. I don't know. That would be scary. And even then, even more crazy if you add the new Stoneplate. But yeah, we'll get to that as well because... Okay. So I think we might see it more because it would compensate for the lack of HP otherwise. And something you have to remember always is that the more armor and MR you get, the more effective your HP is. Yeah. And by extension, the more effective your healing is. So every 5% heal is 5% HP that's very hard to kill because you already have a lot of resistances. So I think it might be built if you don't get enough from the others.
Yeah, I mean it's a buff in itself, right? So it will be it's one of those things where if you pick up like a Mundo or Volibear and you go Titanic Hydra on them,
yeah,
can you imagine that? That'd be pretty grim. Like
yeah,
that,
definitely with Grasp too.
Yeah, it's not just something disgusting like that. I can see its potential. I don't know whether or not, like the reasons why you didn't build it in the past might still be the reasons why you don't build it even after it's buff.
Right.
But you know, like, especially if we consider, at least in my eyes, the new items are pretty good here. The change to Guardian Angel is pretty good as well.
Yeah.
It's more items that you're gonna have to be fitting into your inventory, into your item build, which would, in my eyes at least, kind of delay when you would get that Warmogs, and it kind of squeezes out. Like, yes, Warmogs could be better, but what if we now have some even better, like even better?
Yeah, I got you.
As well.
I guess we could jump over to Guardian Angel, and they have changed Guardian Angel quite a bit. So it now is a AD item, with armor 40 AD and 30 armor, and then the revive passive, which actually has been changed. Previously, it was revive with 700 HP or 50% of your base HP, whichever is higher. And now it's just 50% of your base HP. So that... this is where I don't understand the identity of the item at all. Because they said, alright, we don't like that GA... First of all, they said they don't like that GA is built on tanks, which... Was GA built on tanks? Like, that much?
It used to be actually a pretty good third item on tanks. But that was just disgusting in itself. But
Yeah.
I think it's like, it wasn't a bad... it was always a better kind of like semi-squishy tank item, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I
like,
get
I
you.
would get it, for example, on someone like Lee Sin quite a lot.
It was good for the
It's like-
resistances too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. It rounded off your build. It means you can jump in and not just like instantly get blown up.
Hmm.
It's kind of it was kind of like compensating for tankiness, if that makes sense. So you're lacking tankiness, let's get a GA so you can die twice.
Exactly, which is also the thing with the hyper carry or anything. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's dishonest to say that the people who built GA generally were AD carries or hyper carries, like a Pantheon or Talon or even mid laners. And I mean, it wasn't impossible or that uncommon to see it on tanks, but the way they addressed it made it sound like, oh, this is too much of a tank item. So now we're switching it to 50% of base HP, which is worse for squishies.
Yeah, that's actually better for if they wanted it to be less of a. I didn't even know this was in it, honestly. Like everything else, that the stat changes in itself were what I thought were the problem. I didn't
Yeah,
even know.
they are also the problem. We'll get to that as well.
Yeah, like that's just strange. Like I don't really understand where if you're trying to get it off of people who are tanky,
Who
like,
didn't even
have a
build
lot
it
of
that
health.
much in the first place, yeah.
Yeah, who arguably it wasn't. I mean, I can totally understand if they just want to nip it in the bud or something like that. Like I would get that, but I don't know. Maybe I must be missing something really obvious here, but to
I hope
me-
it's not obvious, because I don't see it either.
no, it does. Yeah, like you would think if you're trying to dissuade the tanks from getting it, you would not keep the percentage health part and would keep the flat health part.
Yeah,
It's
and
like 700 health revival or whatever it was for a squishy. Well, for anyone who has
Low
anyone
base
with low
HP,
amount of
yeah.
health, is better than 50% of health for someone who's got like 3k health, you know? So
exactly. Something worth noting is that it's base health and not maximum health. So like health from... You don't count health from items on that one. Which is
okay.
even stranger, right? Because
Well, to an extent, yeah, but at the same time, that it also gets rid of what's it? That does get rid of the whole kind of like stacking health thing. So that was the obvious thing that I was missing there.
oh, okay, I see. But why wouldn't you build this on a tank still? Like with the change, any kind of AD bruiser like Renekton, you definitely build this item on Renekton, wouldn't you?
On bruisers, absolutely.
On bruisers,
Like,
absolutely, right?
that's really good. Yeah, like you're thinking anyone who does a Cleaver Titanic Hydra will
Yes.
just melt at this item, in my opinion. So
Yes.
Renekton, Kled, even someone like Jarvan, or maybe even people like Lee Sin and Rek'Sai, you know, from the jungle.
Yeah, definitely.
Depending on how you want to build them. But yeah, this is a really... I could honestly just see, considering how cheap it is still, right? I could easily see this, you know, you go Lee Sin. I often go Warrior Enchant and Black Cleaver on Lee Sin. It's not, you know, the build you have to run, but for me, it's a nice balanced build. Damage and a bit of tankiness. And then you chuck this one in here. And even maybe for someone like Zed as well, like, you just chuck this in here. It's still 40 AD. That's blood. That's a BF sword's worth of AD, right?
Yeah.
And then you just like get a little bit of tankiness, but more importantly, now you can't die. So for me, that makes it the transition from lane phase to, well, mid game is usually like this would definitely be bought like during mid game.
Yeah, sometime around mid game. Yeah,
but it makes the kind of the mid game skirmishes definitely so much like easier and yeah, I don't know. That's just it's not gonna like for me. It's much more of like a. If I'm gonna rate it on a tier list, I would say the Kleds, the Renektons, the Jarvans, right? Tier 1, who would want to buy this? Tier 2, people like Lee Sin and Zed. I don't know if you would disagree with that. from
No,
a Zed
I
perspective,
absolutely agree with Zed. Maybe not mid game, but absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So then it's the Lee Sin and Zed, and then the bottom of the barrel here, AD carries, in
Sure.
my opinion. Like, it's still good. I mean, you get AD, it's great, but that to me is not like. I feel like the other champions who, yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
I
I think
think sorry to interrupt. I think that honestly, I can't see a single AD champion, like dedicatedly AD champion, who wouldn't build this. If you could
pretty
name
much.
one, I can't think of one. Every AD carry would
That's
probably. Sorry, what?
No, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the good thing about the change to an extent is that I feel like if you're an AD carry, it's not. It probably feels a bit better to buy it now because don't forget as well that by this having changed the giving the AD to this, it means that AD carries now don't need to necessarily just like waste, so to speak, like air quotes here, waste an item slot on a defensive item,
Right.
which what one could argue is actually not a waste because that's part of the game, you know.
Probably wouldn't
Not
say it's a
necessarily.
waste. No.
No, but now you can actually. People always crying about AD being weak and stuff. Now you can have a defensive item that actually gives you damage still. That's not
Sure.
bad. Like it's not bad just to have that in itself.
I think the problem is that is I can't think of a single champion who wouldn't build this because there was a trade-off before, as you said. If you wanted survivability or you thought you could manage without an item, or even more, you thought you could manage without the Guardian Angel because you wanted the extra damage or you wanted the QSS instead. But now this is going to be integral. This is going to be part of like every build because it's AD as well. 40 AD, that's a cleaver. That's a cleaver amount of
Yeah.
AD. And gives you armor for assassins, which is well, there's usually a lot of AD in every game. And I don't know. It seems weird because they, as I said before, they've been going with this theme that you can kind of decide your items or your build path based on the game. But this is gonna be in like every build because
Yeah.
40 AD is significant,
Yeah,
right?
it's not a small amount of AD. Like we said, that's the BF sword.
Yeah, it's a BF
Or
sword.
the
It's the
cleaver.
new
Yeah.
Bork. It's a cleaver. It's
Yeah. Yeah, there honestly I can't think like I brought up the champion list here and I'm just looking at them thinking what would any of these champions not build it? The only ones I can think of are the pure tanks, like people who would, like Maokai or Nautilus
yeah, or
or
Zac or something. Yeah, sure. People who
yeah,
don't auto attack
exactly.
as much, but any bruiser, anything that scales with AD, anything to auto attacks, I
Yeah,
can't
even
see it.
people you wouldn't buy AD on would still get that in my opinion. Someone like random example like Shyvana or something, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like not someone that you build any AD on. The only AD that you would get on that champion would be
Bork or
if you
something.
had like yeah, exactly like. But that's more like consequential AD. You're
Yeah,
not
of
buying it
course.
for the AD, right?
You're buying
So
for the on hit. Yeah,
yeah, but you would still get this on them in my opinion. Like that would still work on them.
yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah,
It's
that's
bizarre.
strong.
So you're a jungler, right? I think I'm not entirely
Yes.
sure. Have you played jungle before?
Yeah, I think I've heard of it.
Okay. So they're changing Cinderhulk, right?
Mm.
And
Yes. They're
uh,
giving the burn better like
yeah,
monster
exactly.
damage.
Better burn and more damage to monsters and minions. Do you think that would change anything? Because they're increasing damage from 7 plus 2 per level to 11 plus 1 per level. So do you think you're gonna rush this now for like the early
Mm,
spike? I don't know. I think it catches
yeah.
up pretty quickly.
It depends on. I think there are some champions in the game that can either get Cinderhulk or Runic Echoes.
Hmm.
I guess the best example of that would be someone like Gragas or Mumu.
Hmm.
I think these champions now would probably just go Cinderhulk instead, because you double the burn damage against monsters, which like one of the biggest benefits of having Runic Echoes was that your clear speeds and overall clearing in general was just like so much better. You also had better damage for ganks, but mostly it's like so your clears just as soon as you get it, they just become crisp, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to spam abilities to clear properly, and then you would get like extra damage from abilities. You'd also get the Ludens proc, which helps, and then you'd get the mana regen from the Ludens thing as well. But if you don't have to use abilities because you've got this passive burn, then it kind of not only are you clearing faster because this burn is stronger, right?
Right.
But like I say, you don't have to use abilities anymore. So I think overall, that's actually I look at that change and I think that's a really nice change because you don't necessarily want like it's kind of difficult to buff Cinderhulk or the burn from Cinderhulk in a way that doesn't then make tanks just become really annoying to play against because they walk into your lane and just do way too much damage because they burn you for way too much.
Yeah.
So I think it is important if they were to bust Cinderhulk that they didn't make it so that it was really strong against players still, which obviously this change here is much better really for the, well, just so that doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah,
So,
it's a more healthy change, so they don't feel like it goes out of control. The relevant side point here, though, is that do you think they'd still buy it, considering that they're nerfing overall HP on items? Because it's a 50% bonus HP.
Yeah, I think that I would say so, because generally speaking, if you're a Cinderhulk jungler, you buy Cinderhulk first anyway. The only real example of someone I can think of that would get Cinderhulk but not first is probably Hecarim, who rushes Triforce first,
Mm-hmm.
and then gets Cinderhulk afterwards, or maybe someone like Warwick, who might finish like he gets Tiamat, he rushes Tiamat, but then maybe would even rush Titanic if he was crazy enough. But I don't know. Basically, you get it early, right? If you're gonna get it, you get it early. So the bonus health isn't necessarily
as relevant, I see.
exactly, because you don't have that much health early. Plus, you could also argue if the other items aren't giving you as much health, the
Yeah,
fact
that this
Cinderhulk still
compensates.
gives you,
Yeah.
exactly. Like this is now going to give you pretty much the same health as all of the other tank items. Dead Man's Plate gives you 425. Sunfire gives you, or Randuin, sorry, gives you 350, so it's more than Randuin's. And Sunfire, I can scroll down here, is 325. So most of them, Spirit Visage is 325 as well. So most of these tank items now give you around 400 health, which is the exact same as Cinderhulk does. And Cinderhulk is really cheap too, because it's a jungle item.
Yeah, it gives you the extra percentage bonus health HP as well. So
yeah,
that's a good point. Actually, they haven't. I haven't thought about that. That this might compensate for the lack of HP, in a way.
Yeah, I think that it definitely has potential for that. And like I say, for me, looking at the Gragas and Mumu, the people who are on the fence about buying Cinderhulk, I think are now much more convinced that Cinderhulk is probably the better option.
So we might see actually then. It's interesting because then we might see the Abyssal being built as well, because it gives you that 10% more magic damage, both for your team but also for your burn from the Cinderhulk.
Yeah, I mean, it would make it more viable, certainly in that sense, considering it also gives you health as well, which is nice. And CDR.
And CDR, obviously, and if it's an AP comp you're playing against, then yeah, you could do the Cinderhulk into...
I can imagine Zac definitely... Well, the thing is that Spirit Visage is such a good item on a lot of these. Well, I guess Zac is probably the best example, even Gragas, right?
Yeah, of course. Lots of healing.
Yeah, exactly. The tanks who do the magic damage that would benefit from that Abyssal also tend to have the regeneration aspects to their kit, so they want to go Visage as well, and it might be difficult to squeeze in an Abyssal and a Visage, but... Probably,
yeah.
Either way, that's like... Do you remember the Warwick build from, like, Season 2?
Was it the overhealing one, the incredible...
The one where you went... what was it? You went Dawn's Rings, Sorcerer's Shoes, and
no, that's disgusting. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Oh.
Guardsman Bob, if you remember that name.
I remember.
Played a lot of that stuff, and yeah, but that was like the interesting part was you also, I think you went Spellpen Reds, I'm not sure on that one though, but the interesting thing was that people don't really consider that anymore, that your Sunfire Cape does magic damage, or the Cinderhulk does magic damage, and anything that would enhance the magic damage that you deal, so Spellpen, or in this case with the Abyssal, enemy champions take 10% more damage. Like, that's all, that all helps the burn. But having said that, 10% is 10%. Would you consider that to be...
It's relevant. I think the relevant part is that increases your team's damage as well.
Yeah.
Which is probably the most relevant part. It depends on the champion. I mean, I could definitely see if you're playing Zac against... This is speculation, I don't actually play Zac. But if you play Zac against a full AP comp, you could do Cinderhulk, you could do Spirit Visage, Abyssal, and maybe something as crazy as a Liandry's Torment. Because then you'd both be increasing your own... damage. You'd have more magic penetration from the Liandry's to increase the damage from the Sunfire, and all of that would be increased by the Abyssal. Like, you might have a crazy AP damage tank. I mean, we already see it right now, but even more so with an Abyssal that is focused around tanking in a way. Because, of course, this is already what the Abyssal does, but if Cinderhulk is coming back into play, then, yeah, maybe. Even something as crazy as a Sork Boots as well, on top of that. And you'd have a crazy amount of magic penetration and amplifying your own team's magic damage.
Yeah,
It's
someone
very
like
possible.
a Mumu already does stuff a little bit like that. If there is a champion in the game who would be like edging on that kind of let's get more magic damage, but I'm still a tank kind of guy, that would probably be a Mumu.
Yeah.
You can certainly get the well. Spellpen used to be a bit better on him when his passive also gave Spellpen because they kind of worked with each other. But
Well, it's
either way,
kind of great right now too. The new Amumu passive, the one
yeah,
that
that's
increases the
pretty
damage, gives true damage from AP damage, I think.
yeah, exactly. If you tag someone with your autos, your W keeps it refreshing, and your ultimate triggers it as well. Every kind of magic damage the enemy team takes, 8% of it is turned into true damage or extra or on top.
Oof, that's nasty.
It's pretty strong.
Because add the Sunfire thing we were talking about before on top of that.
Yep.
Or is that is that
got
from
Leandry.
yourself or is it from your team as
Yeah,
well?
it works. It works for yourself as well. If you've got Leandries and the Leandries burn will start doing extra true damage too. It works from everything. The fact you can use it, like get it off of your ulti is crazy as well, because then you can get some crazy wombos. Like if you ult like, what, 5-man ultimate's a dream in it. But imagine if you ult 5 people and then like you got like,
Ziggs ult.
on your team. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Just anything like that. I mean, a Amumu is already pretty much just like, if you hit a lot of people with your Amumu ulti, you're probably going to win the fight regardless.
Yeah.
But yeah, adding almost 10% just extra true damage on top of it is
True damage is it's like an Earth Dragon, really. Because it's not just true damage, it's additional true damage on the damage you already dealt. Whew. Crazy stuff. Moving on, Randuins, they basically, what did they change from Randuins? They removed the critical? No, they 20%
they
damage
removed
on.
it and put it back on, so it's back on now.
Okay, that's what I thought. They reduced the duration of the slow rain, I think. And I want to say they did, but I can't
yeah,
confirm.
it might be. I think they may have. Yeah, I've got a feeling it was maybe like 1.5 seconds or something like that. But it's more or less the same. It just has less health and more armor now. Plus, it's better against crits.
Yep. And
I think the slow. I don't know if that's actually. I could be completely wrong here, but it seems like 55% slow. It might have been increased, but I'm actually just gonna double check this because I don't want to.
Yeah, go for it.
So right now it gives you, let's see. No, the attack speed slow is the exact same. The slow, the slow was 35%. Now it's 55%.
And the duration is
duration is 2. Yeah, so it was 4 seconds. Now it's 2 seconds.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's more intense, but lasting less. Slow. The armor is actually the same. That hasn't been increased at all.
But the HP has
But
been
the
lowered, I'm
the
assuming.
health is down, and the crit damage is doubled from 10 to 20.
Yeah,
so...
but say that I thought that 20 did seem kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, like that's the thing. I like an item like this, to be honest, in theory.
Because it's niche, like it's very.
Yeah, exactly. I like niche items. For me, they incentivize kind of smart buying, so to speak. So I
it
like
has
that
more
in
of an
general.
identity. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
And
It's quite significant, honestly. But this could be something where we are talking about. Well, I don't know, honestly. Like, it's interesting because different AD carry metas often change depending on itemization at the time. So when lethality was a thing, that influenced the meta, and it was Varus and Jhin all the time. Now Blader and King's a thing, and it's like Lucian
and Varus and Ashe and Draven actually with a Bork BT.
Yeah, pretty much anyone who can buy Bloodthirster. When crit builds were pretty good, then you saw a lot of Ashe and stuff like that as well. So you know, like itemization has a heavy impact on the AD carry metas, and I don't know, like 20% though reduced from critical strikes. That's like, firstly, I'm not going to complain at all because fuck Yasuo, excuse my French. But outside of that, you know, it's like that's a lot, honestly. Just pure 20% reduced damage is
not just
lot.
in the critical strike part, but 20% damage from the entire attack.
Yeah,
that's nasty. But
it's pretty strong, and I don't know. I'm never too sure of Randuin's interaction with Ashe because I'm pretty sure she technically crits with every hit, doesn't she?
I think so. I don't actually play Ashe.
No, me neither. That's why I don't know. But I've got a feeling she does like little crits. I'm not 100% sure how it
I'm
works, but yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be an expert in the comments who'll
Yeah,
explain it all very
Rage
thoroughly.
does.
Um, on that note, I want to go. I want to go back again. I'm still so confused by GA. Like, I'm sorry, I need to go back again because we had. There's a reason why we've had MR items that gives you AD, Maw and Hex Drinker. We have MR items that gives you AP, and we've had AP items that gives you armor, Zonios, but
Mm.
we haven't had armor items that gives you AD for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Do you remember Atman's Impaler?
Yeah, Atmos, yeah, Atmogs.
Atmogs. There was a reason
Yeah.
why we removed that item.
Yeah,
Um,
it seems maybe they forgot. Maybe there's like a New Balance team
It's
that's
very
sort of
likely.
changed over since like 5 years, and they forgot when they took that one out. Yeah,
Because
AD armor is a dangerous one to touch.
it's very dangerous because especially, I mean, I think top laners are going to be the ones suffering a lot from this. I don't think we're going to see GA rushing, but again, there's really no reason not to buy it. Zonia's had a reason not to buy it because you lose utility. It's kind of I don't want to say clunky, but compared to other items like Merlomicon or anything,
Yeah.
where you have a lot of utility, a lot of fluidity, Zonia's is stale in a way. They even added cooldown reduction to have it more fluent in your builds, but it still has a very stale and a niche. It has an identity, as you said before. This AD armor kind of loses identity because there's so many times you just always buy that on so many champions now. Like an enormous amount of champions who just always buy this. At least have this be a core part of the build.
Yep.
Because why would you ever replace it? The passive in itself, you could have an item that costs 1200 gold with no stats. If it still had that passive, you'd still buy that because that's incredible. They have to focus you, and even when they do so, you're not dead, and they have to spend extra time. It's like a Zonias for people who can't time Zonias. It's incredibly good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's crazy.
It's really strong, and it's so cheap as well. Like 1200 gold is not that much. 1200,
2400, yeah.
It's not that much considering you get a BF sword out of it, which is already like what 1350.
Yeah.
You get a cloth armor from it, which is 300. So 1650 gold, just from like the stats. I mean, that's not 100% because I know like you're meant to calculate.
No, I know.
Like, longsword stats, whatever. It'd be like, but either way,
I get you.
it's like, yeah, and then you just basically buying the GA passive for like 800 ish.
800 gold for that passive.
Yeah, which is considering like right now it's the same. I'm pretty sure it's the same price, 2400. But you pay 720 for the Negatron, 800 for the chain vest. I'm actually just want to double check here the stats on GA because I'm pretty sure you get more stats when you complete the item.
Yeah, you should get more armor. Definitely. Otherwise,
yeah,
you'd
60 armor and 45 magic resist. So the actual stats are down a tad, but the price of the passive is up a tad as well. Not too much, but probably like 100 or something like that, right?
Right.
But generally speaking, now the fact that you can like the stats that it actually gives you, it's worth paying that extra price. You know, you're essentially paying like 200 gold, 100 to 200 gold to change the GA from pure tank stats to BF sword stats.
Right.
So
and
I think that's a pretty good trade-off.
It's. I mean, I could always already hear the argument that, well, isn't it already a generic item because it gives you both MR defense or magic resistance and armor? Well, the issue is, as I said before, it had a very relevant choice, especially for AD carries, where you decide if you wanted a GA or something like a Bloodthirster or a Scimitar, and it's a lot on your, like, do you expect to get blown up, or do you think you can survive longer with some peel item or some kind of tank item or some lifesteal item or anything like that? Now it's just, yeah, it's extra AD. You know, there's no real... I'm never gonna get over this item. Let's just move. Let's move on. So, what about the Rapid is 580? Okay, never mind. There's absolutely nothing. What about the Rapid Fire Cannon?
Rapid fire cannon.
Actually, I haven't seen much on that. Let's see.
No, I saw the kinesis shard or whatever. Oh, was just the rapid fire, meaning that you energize everything else? Yeah. So basically, this is one that incentivizes you to get stack shiv as well, right? Or yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So they're making it so that rapid fire and stack shiv work together pretty well now.
Hmm.
I think that's like, I think it's pretty good. I'm gonna miss the extra like range on your auto.
Absolutely.
Pretty sure that's gone. That was kind of like that was
Rip
pretty nice
TF with rapid fire cannon.
Yeah.
That was so fun when you
I'm
gold
pretty sure it
card
worked
with crazy
Rengar
range.
as well.
Yeah. Wait, you did that on Rengar too?
I didn't, but I'm pretty sure you could like jump out of the bush further, like increases your leap range or something like that.
That would be crazy. Wow. Now I gotta try that.
It was pretty yeah. Back when you used to actually build crit on Rengar, like before he got reworked, you
Right.
used to get rapid fire cannon on him, or you could do. You didn't have to. It was a bit cheesy to an extent, but yeah, it was pretty interesting.
So Runaan's Hurricane is also getting an interesting change where they're removing the build path. They're making it build out of Zeal, and of course by that extent they're also removing that the basic attack deals additional 15 physical damage on hit. They don't do that anymore. But the bolt damage, the extra damage on secondary targets, increased from 25% attack damage to 40% attack damage.
Yeah, it already built out of Zeal before, but now it's
It didn't?
not
Okay.
out of recurve bow. Yeah, it was
Oh,
recurve
that
bow
was it. Yes, I
before.
see.
Now it's two daggers and Zeal. But yeah, this one was interesting because I remember reading the post when they first announced this one. They basically said that Runaan's Hurricane was the go-to option for single target damage, and I was thinking, really? It's considering its whole use is to not,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
it's
a
like
bit
an AoE thing.
interesting.
But I think their logic was that the extra on-hit damage was like actually really like significant.
Yeah.
It's fair enough.
I guess. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be even more scared of a Lulu Kog'Maw right now, because the 25%, it didn't feel like 25% before. Like currently, it feels like a lot more than 25%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it like something like that is a little bit like, I'm not sure I really like increasing the AoE bolts, because I understand it if you want to, maybe you get use out of it from like pushing waves and stuff, like, because I think that's kind of nice. You don't just itemize for team fights, maybe itemize for maybe some utility and other ways, a bit like the ZZ Rot, right? Which I don't like ZZ Rot myself, but yeah, I think it's cool to, or like Band of Command, you know, like to actually have options where you're itemizing for things that aren't just brutally fighting the
yeah,
other team,
not
right?
just always MR, armor, HP, AD, AP,
Yeah.
but a little more niche to it. Yeah, I agree with that incentive that we've been kind of going through this video. That it's more interesting if items have an identity, and definitely Runaan's did. I think maybe this change was about that they wanted to change it so that it's not just a Kog'Maw item, to where they wanted to have it more be on other champions that just build from attack damage.
I
So
mean, a
that
lot of people
could be
get
it.
it already. Like Caitlyn gets it, Ash gets it. You know, like it's not that rare to see a Runaan's. Honestly, if you've got any kind of decent range, then and not a
Yeah,
then
I like
you
in
get
general.
Runaan's,
I
you
think
know.
it's too much of an increase. I think 40% is.
Yeah, that's what I'm not a fan of, because now to me that's like you don't have to worry as much about your target selection, because the neighbor's gonna get smashed.
Hit in the
anyway.
general direction. You can just
Yeah.
farm a minion wave and accidentally kill someone.
But I mean, in general, like I don't really think this will change much. You'll see Runaan's on the same people you saw before. I think it will have the same use as before as well. But if you're standing next to someone who's getting wailed on and the enemy has Runaan's, you might want to move out of the way a bit faster.
Yeah, that sounds like a solid advice. And on that note, let's move on to. So we can just quickly go through Sunfire, just similar to Cinderhulk, where they increase the damage on minions but decrease the damage on other people, basically.
Yeah, I like that overall. Like, I think that's nice. Like, we were talking really early on about how I use the example of buying like a Spirit of Visage versus Rumble,
Mm-hmm.
and how that was just like, yeah, wait, I need to be right back 1 sec, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry.
No
here.
problem. No problem.
I heard Shad get into some trouble downstairs.
Oh, is he vomiting or?
He was like, I heard him like coughing off a furball, but if he does it more than twice, then I worry a bit about him. And I think he like stumbled into a chair or something, so there was like a bit of a ruckus as well. I just want to make sure he's all right.
Oh well, good to know that he is feeling okay.
He's fine. He's fine. Just doing shit.
Good. Everyone can breathe.
Yes.
Right, Sunfire Cape.
Sunfire Cape. Right,
Yes.
yeah, Sunfire Cape. So we're
You said
talking
something about
about
a Haunting Geist versus, sorry, a Spirit Visage
Spirit
versus
Visage.
Rumble.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about how if you play versus Rumble, right, you might want to rush the Spirit Visage, but that's like kind of not too happy about it because then you come out against the Rumble and you're going against AD and you're still pretty strong, right?
Hmm?
This to me, Sunfire Cape was just the quintessential rush item for most top laners.
Yeah.
Because people used to do it even if you're against an AP, which is how I kind of thought it was.
Too strong, or yeah, it's not a good item in that case.
Like people like Poppy would just rush it against me when I was playing Nautilus or something, and you know, you go up against a tank, you would still rush Sunfire Cape because just the health from itself was fine, you know, like it was decent enough, and then having that extra damage was really nice. Like it really, really helped you. So the fact that they're completely gutting the burn damage against players, I think is fine because having tank items that deal damage as well is not great by design.
Yeah.
But moving it more into a niche of, okay, now these tanks who don't have the AD to push out minion waves consistently and have to rely on abilities to do that. Now they can just stand in the minion wave and push it anyway. So I like that they can contest on that front without necessarily being like really strong in the 1v1s.
Yeah, I actually think overall, I think this is a pretty great nerf, or not nerf specifically, but change. Since again, they're sticking with the theme of lowering HP and increasing armor. So it's 60 armor from 50, and I think it's interesting that because it was really frustrating with the burn from the Sunfire, and to have that instead still be weaker, but still be able to very efficiently push minions. I thought that was actually quite an elegant nerf in a way.
Yeah, I think that's good. Same with Cinderhulk. I think they're pretty decent changes.
Yeah, I think Cinderhulk is probably more relevant though. I can't say for sure because I don't jungle. So I think with the clear, as you said, that might open up a lot of like bring back Gragas and such from having built Runic Echoes.
Definitely, yeah.
But this might be relevant with like I can't think of a tank that can't push really because like Nautilus and
someone like
Maokai.
Shen. Yeah,
Shen,
Maokai's okay, but Shen isn't so good that he.
Yeah, because you'd build
like
Titanic right now. You'd rush Tiamat to push and such. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to Sterak then. They increased AD attack damage from 25% to 30% of base HP. Shield value from 30% of max HP to 75% of bonus health. It's interesting. I can't give an exact number on if that's better or worse, actually. What do you think? 75% of bonus HP or 30% of max health?
I would probably say the bonus health.
Probably, right?
More significant. I think it's probably a bigger shield now, I would say. Not 100% sure though. Honestly, it seems to do like, for me, that's really similar anyway. Like, bonus health is like a tank item, max health is a tank item. So it would seem as though that's more of.
They're definitely going more for the don't build this many carries as a last item, but more build this on a bruisery gangplank, Renekton something, who has a lot of HP.
Yeah, it seems more like that, but it also just seems like the same to an extent. Like,
yeah, of course, it's the same identity. The numbers are being tweaked, but it's the same identity. And of course, they increased the attack damage from 25% to 30%. When you go into the Sterak's Fury thing. So overall, this thing is gonna hurt a bit more.
A bit more, yeah. A little bit of a buff from the damage side of things. I'm guessing that Riot's logic here is that because I don't think they viewed Sterak's as a weak item necessarily. So my guess here is that they think that this bonus health is gonna be a lower total.
I hope so because
they're gonna increase the damage. You know.
Yeah, I
so,
guess. I guess we'll see. Maybe they want this to be the same identity, like same kind of style like the GA, where you tanky and AD. So combine these and you get more efficient HP and you get the survivability. But yeah, I think this is gonna have the same spot really. Like the difference isn't that big anyway.
Yeah.
But definitely on like an AD carry, it's still 400 HP as well. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can
Uh,
still see if you're a Triforce user, it's better now as well, right? Because it gives you more
yeah, definitely.
base attack. But, I mean,
Christ, I
5%
didn't
is
think about
not
that.
that much, to be
Well,
honest.
it's
But
5%. 5% when it's when you don't have Sterak's Fury on, and 5% additional 5% with Sterak's Fury. So
right,
it's kind of 10%. Not exactly, but
kind of.
yeah, kind of, kind of.
Yeah.
We've already talked about Cleaver. We could actually not pivot specifically. We could talk a little bit about that because you said like we've been kind of keeping this theme of we want items to have identities, but Cleaver is always built on many champions. Like no matter what, no matter if it's tanky, no matter if it's squishy, like enemy team, I'd build it basically every single game on Zed. And there are many champions like Renekton who you just wouldn't not build it on them. Do you think
Pretty
they should
much.
change Cleaver, or do you think it's still good as it is?
The thing, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one because for me, I don't think that it's 100% a great item right now because I feel like what's intended to be its identity revolves around the armor shred.
Hmm.
I feel like that's what's like meant to be the cleaver, you know?
Right.
Even to an extent in its name, it kind of implies something like that, right? And ever since it's been around, it's always had some form of armor shred on it. Even
Right.
back in the day when it was like a tap
First
speed
released,
item,
yeah.
I remember. Yeah, it still had the armor shred.
Mhm.
So for me, like the problem, like I don't really feel like Cleaver has much of an identity though, because I don't think people buy it for the armor shred. I think
No,
people buy
it's
it because its stats are ridiculous. Like
the
health,
stats are really good,
AD,
and
20% CDR
it
is
gives you
really strong.
everything above all. It gives you HP, it gives you survivability, gives you damage, gives you cooldown reduction, gives you kite, gives you
Yeah.
chase, and it's never gonna be bad. At no point of the game is this gonna be
Yeah.
bad.
Even when you're not playing versus tanks, people still buy it. Even if you're playing like an AD carry, you still buy it. Like everyone buys it, you know, like the Renekton's, like you're saying, the Renekton's, the Kleds, the Dariuses, they buy this item. The Zeds buy this
The
item.
Talons, the
Talon,
Pantheons,
yeah,
the everything really.
exactly. Wukong, they buy the item. So
Jarvan,
it's
yeah,
like the
that's
Bruiser tanks buy it, the
Assassins
Assassins
buy
buy it,
it.
the AD carries buy it. I buy it like I say all the time on Lee Sin. So it's not a bad item for anyone, and to that extent, not much identity from that purpose. I think honestly, if they want to change Black Cleaver, I would personally I think 20% CDR is just crazy. Like I think
Yeah,
that
it
you could
is.
probably just cut that to 10% as is, and it would still be a good item. I think that's 20% is if an item's going to give 20% nowadays, it has to be pretty special because 20% is literally half of the potential CDR you can get.
Yeah, and you get so much like ambient CDR from so many other sources as
Yeah.
many builds that it's kind of crazy. I think
Yeah.
if they wanted to do that, they should reduce the cooldown reduction and compensate with AD or compensate with something else, um,
Yeah.
or even like remove the cooldown reduction and see if that could work. But I think by if you removed it completely, you'd probably a lot of champions would lose that incentive
Yeah.
in a way. But
That the thing is like you say, it gives everything, right? And it gives everything, but it doesn't give anything in any kind of like specific way.
yeah,
So the health you get isn't like you get a crap ton of health and a little bit of AD, or a crap ton of AD and a little bit of health.
yeah, medium
You get
AD, medium health, good
exactly.
cooldown reduction, good chase, and like one of the best armor penetration methods in the game because it's not just your armor penetration, but
Yes,
you're
everyone
shredding
else.
the armor so that other people can benefit from it
Yep.
too.
Exactly.
Um,
It's really crazy, honestly, and I don't know, like this. I don't know. Like to me, that I don't even think they've nerfed Black Cleaver here.
with the
More
HP
so,
change or the
no, just the armor pen
yeah, because
reduction.
the armor is being increased as well. So yeah, I see.
Exactly. So that it's just making it so that it's falling in line to the other changes, and not even touch the item itself. So I think the biggest problem with Black Cleaver is that like with everything else we've already touched on, but also when you combine the fact that if you get the Kleds or Renekton's, like we were saying, these champions who are resourceless champions are only limited by cooldowns, nothing else. No
Yeah,
mana, no energy, no nothing, just cooldowns. So you stick 20% CDR into an item like that, and
and they're
suddenly
gonna
they're
build
like,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Um, I guess I could finish it off by saying I think there's a difference between GA and Cleaver, like the new GA, because I said it's problematic that everyone's gonna build it because
Hmm.
Cleaver doesn't really change the entire dynamic of a team fight the same way GA does.
Yeah.
I think Cleaver is just a good addition. It's like you pad out a build with it in a way, and GA really, really drastically can change how you play around a fight. Well, Cleaver is like, it's there, it's good, and it's good on many champions, and it enables a lot of champions, but it doesn't change the game in the same way. So I think if they kept Cleaver the same way, it's not a hugely problematic item. It might be problematic that so many champions build it, but I think, as you said, I think that's the cooldown reduction mainly, because we had other choices for in mid lane, the 20% from Morellonomicon, because it used to be Morellonomicon or Athenes every single game, and that was hugely because it was mana and cooldown reduction. But we could get cooldown reduction from other sources and more mana from another source, tier, into our channels. But you didn't do that because it was cooldown reduction so quickly, such a huge amount, which is why it's still a staple in so many mages, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if they changed that, it'd probably be fine. Moving on, Bloodthirster is getting 5 AD. It's okay, I guess. Not that big of a deal. We already talked about Warmogs. And we have the two final items. Adaptive Helm, which is a MR item, which gives you HP, MR, health regeneration, cooldown reduction, 10% cooldown reduction, and then has an effect that probably is going to piss off a lot of Swain players, where they say taking magic damage from a spell or effect reduces all subsequent magic damage from the same spell or effect by 15% for 4 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this counts as with dots.
Oh, maybe it doesn't?
I'm not sure. It might do, actually. If it says spell or effect, maybe a dot counts as like an effect or something.
I think because it's effect, I think it should be. But actually, that's a relevant point, yeah.
When I was reading about it when it first got announced, they were more or less. It seemed as though it was targeted towards the late game, like machine gun mages, people like Ryze and Cassiopeia. So maybe Karthus as well. So I don't know whether it will be slapped onto dots as well. But either way, I think it's like a good item overall because we don't have something to really fight against machine gun mages, and the way that the itemization is, there's not really that many magic resist items, like tanky magic resist items, outside of Spirit Visage, because you got Banshees, but that's kind of like
Banshees is not really a tank item. Like, it's a weird item. Like, I don't know about the new one. Now it's going to be a mage item, but the old one is not really a tank item. You never saw it on tanks at all because.
Yeah, exactly. You never saw it on tanks. No one built it. No one built Banshees. The Mormon Mortius was good, like bruiser AD item.
Yeah, fantastic item for a long time now.
Yeah, but it's not something you would never like. I can't really. I think it'll be extremely rare to see someone with a more and a visage because the people who build those usually would either they're just not the same types of champions, like pure tanks would build visage and not more.
Yeah, exactly. No, I can't think of many champions would build both. Like maybe a Renekton, maybe,
but I think it's just so rare. So you don't really have too many sources of actual magic resist, which I know is quite intended by Riot because it's not quite the same. Like spells aren't the same as auto attacks are because
of course,
AD they should have more because it's just it's easier to fire off autos than it is to fire off spells. But
exactly, you have more instances of AD than you have of AP damage.
Exactly. So it's interesting that this is now being brought in because this is like a really big cockblock to some of these machine gun mages who later on into the game just completely pop off.
Yeah, because there's not much to do against them in that way. But this would be a good item against them. They probably, on that side note, they probably have to buff Ryze a little bit because can we just remove Ryze because we don't know how to buff him or keep him relevant. We've reworked him like 3 times and either he's completely broken or like a 30% win ratio. Like we don't know. No one knows how to balance this champion at all.
Yep.
Moving on to the possibly one of the most problematic items in this entire mid-season update, Gargoyle Stoneplate, which is a armor and MR item, so kind of breaking that trend they were going for before. And then it has the passive Stone Skin, which says if 3 or more enemy champions are nearby, grants you 40 extra armor or magic resistance. So then you would be at 80 armor and MR. And then it has an active, which says increases health by 40% and increases champion size, but reduces damage dealt by 60% for 4 seconds. And it's a 90-second cooldown. However, if Stone Skin is active, so if the one where you have 3 or more enemy champions around you, the active health increase becomes 100% instead. So you get double your HP for 4 seconds, and reduce damage, and increase size, while having 80 armor and MR from one item.
And it's only 2.5k gold, which is not that expensive for an item. Really.
Yeah. So your Zax, this might be what rounds out their whole HP build we were talking about before with Warmogs.
Like old Guardian Angel sometimes, which kind of rounded off tank builds.
Yeah.
You can kind of do it with this one here.
But even more so, because we're talking about something that jumps into the fight.
Yeah.
So like a
I wonder
Zac.
if that's like increasing health. I wonder if that's like your current health. I'm assuming that's your current health, which is interesting. Yeah, like you jump in and you pop it, and then...
I think it's maximum. Like your maximum is increased by 40%, but I don't know.
Well, how would that work if you're on like 1,000 health? Or if you're on like 100 health or something, like really low health, and then you pop it.
You'd probably get the HP you're increased with. So say your maximum HP is 2,000, and you'd use this. You'd get 4,000. You get 2,000 HP bonus, but your maximum would be 4,000. That's how I read it, at least.
Yeah, it'll either work like that or it'll increase your current health. I think it's probably healthier. No pun intended.
Well done.
I don't even mean that. I think it's better if it just increases your current health, because then I think there's more of an incentive to use it as like a massive shield almost as you jump in.
Preemptively.
Rather than something where, oh shit, I'm gonna die. Whoops, no, I'm not gonna die anymore. Haha, you can't kill me.
Yeah.
So, and I think that kind of plays into the item itself, where it says it does reduce, like you do reduce damage and stuff. So basically just initiate, and you're hard to kill.
And you're big as well, so you draw aggro, or you draw like soak up spells, literally, because they can't get past you.
Yeah. I think it's a nice initiating item, but I think I like the champion design and the item design in general, because it's so many times the tanks just build for the lane phase, and then they come out of lane phase and they just shit on the whole game still, because their itemization just allows them to do that, which was a problem with like Sunfire Cape and stuff. Like I remember last season when it was Sunfire Cape, Iceborne, Spirit Visage, just get those 3 items on anyone you were playing top lane, on the Maokai's, the Nautiluses, the Echo top lane as well.
Oh god, yes, I remember.
Like, you just do that every single game. It was a ridiculously strong, Poppy as well, of course, ridiculously strong lane phase build, and then you come out and you're unkillable as well. This item is nice because I feel like it's more of like a rounding off build, so you won't be getting in the lane phase anyway. But even say in theory you wanted an item like this in the lane phase, I don't think you'd ever buy this like lane phase item.
No,
like,
it really wouldn't be. I can't see this being built in lane phase. Not only for the fact that you wouldn't get the stone skin, but it's just armor and MR.
That's the garbage for the lane phase. You know, it's just terrible. You want a little bit of health, right? And you want to specialize a little bit for the lane phase, or else you just get rolled over. But well, or not if you buy a Sunfire Cape. I like it that it's a tank item where it means you're strong in the team fights, but you're not so strong outside the team fight. So you have a very definite payoff. It's very niche. I feel like that's quite a significant theme of all these item changes.
Yeah.
There's definite differences in, you have to think about how you buy this item now. Like, this item is good in this situation, terrible in this situation. So now play around that. Play around that situation. I like that, and I think the Gargoyle Stoneplate in general. I mean, I don't like big tanks in team fights, but at least I do like the fact that you get tanky at the sacrifice of damage. Like, that's nice. Like, at least like something like Sterak, which can be really annoying because it gives you a little bit of damage, it makes you tankier, and then you pop this massive shield, and it's like, oh shit.
You jump in with Zac, and you're. Yeah, because oh my god, Zac is going to be so big, because not only does your HP increase, so he increases in size, but it also literally increases your size by itself. Zach's gonna jump in and be like covering the entire screen. That pretty much covers it. I mean, overall, I guess I would say, and as you've been saying, the theme of this entire change is niche and very specific items for specific changes. The items are very specific identity, so it's a crazy update, but it might actually be good in a way. Definitely things I had problems with. Absolutely have a problem with GA. I think even if it wasn't on GA, even if they just made an item that's armor and AD, I think I'd have a problem with that. But make the armor AD item also be GA?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they said that they wanted it to be better for like AD carries and stuff.
Yeah, but why would they change to 50% base HP then? I don't.
It's just like, yeah, I mean, we're just gonna see these bruises just be really bloody annoying, like for sure, 100%. 100% the cleanser Nexus is just gonna pop off. It's gonna be really irritating for a while.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes. Thank you very much for coming on, man.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me.
But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and have a fantastic day. Peace.